Hello and welcome to the very first session of this short course. And the purpose of this session is to discuss the importance of a website. To discuss that, I'm joined by Andy from the MediaWorks team. Andy, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Andy. I'm the Group Strategy Director here at MediaWorks.
So, Andy, I guess the first question I have is, from your perspective, what is the importance of a website?
I think the websites have always been important. I think for me, they are the cornerstone of the majority of your marketing activity in terms of the importance of online activity. You know, consumers have never been more connected to the internet than they ever have with the rise of mobile phones, laptops. So I think everybody's kind of accessing the internet from lots of different devices. But I think you have that aspect of digital has always been on the up. I think, any marketing campaign or any organization who isn't looking at their website as a fundamental part of their business in terms of, generating revenue from new customers or attracting existing customers, you're missing a trick, if that makes sense. But I also think that there's been some fundamental things that has happened over the past few years that has kind of almost expedited the importance of digital, and then a website sits at the forefront of that. We think about COVID and the amount of people that had to rely heavily on a website or some form of website technology to survive, to exist, to continue to transact as a business. I think that definitely almost elevated the importance of it, and people were looking at their websites to make sure that it had the functionality that it needed, that they maybe didn't think that they needed in the past. So I think that's been a huge thing, like COVID, and how businesses have engaged with their consumers or like their existing customers, prospective customers, changed everything. But I think a lot of those behaviors have stuck. And I think, we always say that who's going to use a website, we might have an older demographic that we as a core part of our audience base. But I also think that through COVID and that point in time, we almost had non-digital natives had to adopt these technologies and use websites more often, just to pay phone bills, to get in touch with people, to problem solve, to order drinks at a bar. You were using websites in order to do that. So I think digital was important and continues to be fundamentally important, and a website, in my opinion, kind of is the cornerstone of all of that.
So you mentioned the website kind of being the cornerstone, and we know that there's so many channels out there now. You've got social media, you've got email marketing. So coming out of COVID now and looking ahead, in terms of a website, again, what is the significance of that particular channel over the other channels that we have available to us?
I think it's when we think about the way people consume all of these different medias and all of these different channels, I think it's not necessarily in isolation it's important. It's important in the entire mix. If you might use a paid campaign or a social strategy or an email marketing campaign to go and attract audiences, but you have to send them somewhere to almost convert. Or, in my opinion, a website will play a part of like 60% of a journey if you get it right. So if you go out and you create an awesome video, publish it on your social channels, where do you want that engagement? Shouldn't stop there. The next thing should be come over to our website where you'll find more content, and you can then almost continue the engagement with a customer. I think when you've got them on your own technology, where you've got them on your own infrastructure, then you can start to understand more of these people. If you build your business and rely on social, you'll only ever have third-party data. You'll only ever collect the data about your customer through a Facebook campaign, and might be anonymized, but actually if you can bring them to your website, then you can start collecting first-party data. How do these people interact with you as a brand? What content do they like? And put an account sign up on, then you can actually convert them and you can track them and understand a lot more about the behavior. So I think, whether it's email marketing, social, search will probably pick up on that in a second. The website is the focal point where everything should come back to your website, because at that point you're in full control as well. If you rely on Facebook, it's just such a competitive space where everybody's fighting for attention, and you never really fully consume an audience's attention. In my opinion, it might be quite passive. You might get a little bit of it, but on a website, you can, take full control.
Just speaking there then about those other channels that we have available to us, you said the key word there about the journey, the user journey. So just for the benefit of the learners, could you just go into a little bit more detail about what do you mean by that user journey? What does that mean?
So whenever we think about, building a website or making a website that is going to work for you, well, how do you work out what your website is, what it needs to do, and how can it best serve your customers? I think fundamentally what people would look at is what's the journey through a website, from the first page that they look at to the next page they go to the page that they then convert. And I think the easiest way to kind of get your head around that is you might start on a home page of a retailer's website. You might drill down into a category where you can see multiple products. You might then drill down into a product page. 9 times out of 10, you'd go back and look at other products in the category. You do that consideration phase of this one or that one, price point, available size. Then you come down into a basket to transact. Then you go through to checkout and purchase. So that would be like a user journey on a website, essentially. What we kind of try to look at is where can a website play a part in a customer's journey from start to finish, right? So if you think even at that point where, let's just say, and I'll use e-commerce again because it's quite an easy one, but at the point where they think they've booked to go out for dinner on Saturday night and they need something to wear, where do they start? Well, they might go to social, understand what are the products that are trending, and you might read a blog post to say that these are the 10 styles that you should wear if you're going out and you need a cocktail dress for this Friday. So you kind of think, okay, well, there's a place and a part of this journey where our website could provide top of the funnel content where somebody doesn't know what product they want, but they're exploring an idea. There's a place for your website there. Then you think, actually, then they're going to explore category. So you need to have your products on offer. Then they might wish list baskets. Wish lists came around when you've seen so many people going between products. And, shopping behavior now is people just put a load of things on their wish list and they might shop for a week and a half. They might have seen it on the Monday, but then check on it on a Wednesday, stick a few more things in on the Friday and purchase it on the Saturday. All of these things have been developed or features that have been put on a website when you start to understand like buyer behavior and a customer journey, because then you go into, then you purchase it, then it comes through the door, and you want to think about a return, all of that. So the website can play a part in an entire customer experience. And I think if you consider that, then you'll really make a website work quite hard for you, because you can think about attracting customers, converting them, and then almost making them loyal and coming back.
So the example that you've used there is of kind of retail or e-commerce, right? Yeah, bit of an easy one, right? So we can imagine then how people discover our website. Like you said, it could be through social, it could be through search as well, because they're searching for something quite specific, an actual product. So my next question then would be, is it just retailers? Is it just e-commerce organizations that need a website, or are there other businesses that should consider having a website as well?
I think I'm biased on it. Every organization should have a website, and that's because kind of the way that we have evolved and the way consumer behavior has evolved is it's a number one proof point. Even if you do not transact online, there is a place in your business for a website. It might just be a different part of that journey. So you talked about SEO, where somebody could be searching for a service or a product that you offer. If somebody's first initial engagement of when they've not booked for dinner on Friday, when they realize that they might need a new CMS platform. Mm-hmm. So the first touch point, and I think about how many people start their discovery online. Word of mouth used to be the biggest thing. It's still a very powerful tool, customer testimonials, and that's always going to be there. But the first touch point when people go to discover and explore new brands is a search and online. Right? So actually, if you are not there for what is the best CRM system for a manufacturing company, if you're not there, then you've lost that. You've lost that out to your competitors. Some other competitor has optimized their website and they are immediately visible, right? And then at that point, they're going to go through the same process like you would if you were looking at a different style of dress or a different shoe style. You're going to then start understanding the business, the organization. Is it reputable? Has somebody? What are the testimonials there from other customers? Do they operate in a space where I do, and could they support me with my problem? Like some of the problem statements I have, I needed to integrate with X, Y, Z. So all of that piece of research that customers are doing online, if you do not have a website, you will be missing out, right? So actually it's huge when it comes to attracting customers, but then that process of building confidence and, somebody could bounce off your website if it doesn't position you in the right way, and they're straight on to the next person. So that consideration phase, and if you think when you're implementing a new CRM or a new piece of software in your business, that's a big decision. So you're probably going to spend a lot of time with that consideration phase. So then it's about having case studies, testimonials, problem statements that I could align with, value propositions as a brand that I might align with. All of that content has to be so relevant. And then the conversion point at that point is a telephone number or form field. So just like the basket, if you're in a B2B world, you need to have those digital touch points to convert. That's probably my most important thing, because you could have invested significantly in a great website. You could invest heavily in an SEO strategy, which means that you attract these customers to the website early on. But if you can't convert them, they're going to go back to Google and go and convert somebody else. So that conversion point of an e-commerce is a basket. But in a world of B2B, it's a form field, it's a telephone, it's live chat, because, some people are just so impatient. If you get the live chat, the conversation going, then you can move through. It's links to LinkedIn, and from the people page to, okay, so I've seen that Paul works in the CRM team and he's an expert in Sage. Then let's go and check his LinkedIn. Or the sales team or the growth managers reputable people? So all of this stuff can kind of help in conversion. And that's a B2B world where we're just lead gen, essentially, is what we would call it.
No, I was just going to say, I think you made a really good point there about kind of the power of word of mouth, but then also the power of a website as well, because there's a report by Nielsen in 2022 ranking the most effective marketing channels, full stop. Yeah. First place, like you said, it's always word of mouth has the most power, but then the second place was in fact a branded website. Yeah. So we think again about the importance of that and almost having a hub where people can go, they can get educated, they engage with content, and then you develop that trust with that user, then convert. It still plays the biggest part when we think about all those channels.
Trust. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head in terms of build that trust. That is what your website is there to do. It's to build. So many an e-commerce or a pure e-commerce business might never ever speak to their customers. Do you know what I mean? They might never ever have this dialogue. You can't build that rapport. So what you need to do is kind of almost try and build that sense of trust of being a reputable organization who will deliver on what they say, who provide good value, who provide good quality products. All of that needs done through content. And we've always just the sheer, not the change in landscape, but if you think about the importance of something like Trustpilot now, Trustpilot is what we will always say to everybody. I mean, every client, you need to have third-party review sites as part of your strategy, because the first, when someone's found you as a website, 9 times out of 10 they're going to go looking for reviews, whether that's Google reviews, Facebook reviews, whether it's Trustpilot. There's all these third-party providers of review sites are becoming more and more important, and then you've got organizations that literally embed this in everywhere. You've got trust reviews coming through at a brand level, reviews coming at a product level, reviews coming through on your aftercare, reviews coming through on your delivery process, because at every point people need to build trust. Mm-hmm. And I think, if we are relying on building a website that we expect to convert without any engagement and inbound B2B marketing strategy around lead gen, well then we need to make sure all of these facets are in place. So I think it's really, really important. Yeah,
really interesting to think how it all links in, because something that I observed over the weekend was I was looking for car insurance for myself. Yeah. So I was on one of these comparison websites, and my kind of normal routine is I'll look for the cheapest price, then I'll go straight to De Facto, have a look at the ratings of these providers, and then I'll decide, right, this is one I want to click through to, go to the website, and then make that purchase. What I noticed this time around, and maybe it's just the first time I've actually noticed this, was as soon as I clicked through to that provider's website, the rating was there, embedded onto the page. So there was no need for me to now kind of maneuver away from that journey. I could just stay on site, make that purchase.
I think that's because, people understand the importance of these trust metrics at the point of conversion, let's just say, because the minute you lose someone, you could go on to a third-party trust site, realise you only score 3.4, say your brand, because you want price and you want quality. That's the blend, isn't it? Where are you willing to make the sacrifice? If you're 5 and 5, you win. But I think it's about having that balance. But I think what's really important as well is you think about the shift. A lot of people used to just put their own customer testimonials on a website. You would fish through the best testimonials you have, and you would stick it on your homepage. And that's what you're leaving then in shining light. And I think even Google themselves, a big driver is we need that third party review where it's completely honest, it's completely open and transparent. So people are pulling the Trustpilot widget in and putting that on the website because they know it's come from a third party, that they haven't had the ability to select a best in class review and just put that on everything. You can't hide behind your bad reviews, so even when you think about, if you do put your reviews at the forefront of your web experience and tell the world all about it, you've got to have a strategy to maintain those reviews. Any bad reviews you just address, you hit it head on, you engage with the community, because something, if everybody had a perfect review all their own, someone would think there was a bit of a rabbit out, because sometimes things go wrong. You might have a dodgy delivery that comes a little bit late. You might get something wrong when your product's being picked. It might come back through faulty. That's going to happen, right? But it's how you then respond as a brand. So actually surfacing those reviews and how you handle a not so positive experience is equally as important. But I think, it's been a big change, and you'll even see, we talk ago, the 5 stars you'll see on the website. You'll see them pull through to product listings in Google. You'll see them pull through to listings on Google's kind of 1 to 3 on the search engine results page. And that's because, again, it's a big driver of conversion. It'll improve your click-through rate on all of those ads.
Something else I think is worthwhile just having a little bit of discussion around is this idea of conversions.
Yeah.
Because I'm aware that when we're discussing conversions, the first thing that comes to people's minds sometimes is a transaction takes place, a purchase typically. But we know that doesn't necessarily mean what a conversion is. We have micro conversions, we can have a series of those conversions, etc. So just to give us a little bit of clarity on that and to kind of broaden our mindset, what could some of those conversions from a website perspective actually be?
So the way I kind of look at conversions is that everybody has a primary conversion that we would want to optimize a website towards. So let's just say you are, not to make it easy, we'll go in a B2B lead, you're a B2B company, build a website, and you want to start putting together some measurement and some tracking on how's your website performing, and you would do that by, what are all the conversion points. So for me, I would always kind of align conversions with different stages of the funnel. So if we talk about any experience at the very top of the funnel where somebody just discovers you as a brand for the first time, and they visit your website and they get there because we give them a bit of Facebook advertising on a new white paper into a particular sector, and we amplified it through Facebook, LinkedIn, or whatever. They visit the website. The primary conversion there might be they become a customer. They convert and they fill out a form and they say, "Oh, I like your product in my sector. Can we have a conversation?" That's a primary lead. But the reality of that happening is quite small, let's just say, in terms of from not even being in the market to look for something, but having a piece of content put in front of them that was relevant to go and then say, "I want it." The buying journey might be a bit longer. So you've got to think, well, okay, at the top of the funnel, what might be a secondary conversion at that point is they sign up to your newsletter, right? So if they sign up to your newsletter, well, then it means we can continue to nurture them further towards our primary conversion in time. Or it could just be that they download the white paper, right? If it was, let's just say there's an article there and you can download a white paper version of it and you get a bit of data from them. That for me is a kind of a secondary conversion to what we want from that customer in the long term. At that point, we can then start to engage with them. The second conversion might be that we can get them to come back to the website and drive them towards a specific page further down the funnel, which might be the product page that we want to sell them, let's just say. So, so a secondary conversion in that marketing funnel would be the return through an email that we send out to them. Let's say there's another piece of content from your sector, then they come through. And then eventually, you drive through all of those micro conversions to ultimately drive an inquiry at the very end. So I think, there's primaries and secondaries, and a secondary conversion could be just getting some data, which you could then go on to market to. But a primary conversion is a sale. So that's how we kind of look at doing things. Some secondary conversions could be that they follow you on Facebook. Mm-hmm. The fact that you put a piece of content in front of somebody, they've engaged with it, brilliant, you've hit that objective, but then they then go on to follow you on Facebook. You can then start nurturing them through to your primary conversion.
Funnel. You keep referring to this term funnel, and I appreciate that learners who've done a previous short course with us will be familiar with the concept of a funnel, but I feel like trying to say, can we just quickly summarize what a funnel is. But yeah, in your words, what is a funnel?
So you have a lot of kind of funnels that have been developed over, the standard funnel of awareness, consideration, decision. And that is a very broad way of looking at how a buying journey could go. But I think that's in my opinion, because this is all I'm going to give you, I think that's a good place to start in terms of understanding the concept of trying to take somebody from here to there and report success. But in any strategy, any marketing campaign should have a bespoke marketing funnel set out for that goal, that user. So for example, if we said, Andy, let's develop a social strategy where we want to go out and we want to engage with a very particular demographic on LinkedIn to drive them to conversion. A bespoke marketing funnel that goes viewing the ad, watching the ad, clicking through to the website, consuming the content, then converting, then having a conversation, then buying the product, in my opinion, is a bespoke marketing funnel for the tactic that we'd agreed, which is LinkedIn campaign, use an asset, drive somebody through. So I think a funnel in its broadest sense is awareness, consideration, decision, but everything should be tailored and bespoke to the specific tactic that you're running.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do appreciate the difficulty of kind of trying to wrap that up as quickly and efficiently as you can, because, the concept of funnels is nothing new. And for those who have studied marketing previously, if you go all the way back to kind of the AIDA model, right? Yeah. That was developed back in the 1800s when we think about kind of buyer behavior and the effectiveness of advertising. And, having those stages in the AIDA model of attention, interest, desire, action. But now to think about it in a digital landscape as well, like you said, to think back to those touch points or those channels or that user journey and then mapping out what that funnel looks like to get people all the way from awareness, to find out about your brand, your product, your service, whatever it is, all the way through to making that conversion, but then also what happens after that as well. And I think, a website can serve a purpose for each of those stages, can't it?
Absolutely. And I think, if, a real kind of, not website funnel, but a marketing funnel should straddle multiple platforms. Our job as kind of as an agency to support clients is to help them follow data from the very top to the very bottom, at the point where we chuck it over to their CRM and it's a lead, then watching it right the way through the sales process. That's part of your sales funnel. And unless you have the full visibility of it, then you really can't measure the effectiveness of it all. Do you know what I mean? If you lose sight of it at any point, then you're losing a little bit, I think, or you've missed an opportunity to optimize and learn something. So yeah, I think the funnel chat is a pretty important one, I think, to be honest, because I think there's a lot of talk of there's no such thing as a funnel. And I understand that because, I think that buying journeys are becoming more complex as we are investing more in websites, more in social. The mobile device itself means that people are accessing the internet more often in short bursts, so they're constantly researching something. I once in a presentation, it was like the amount of touch points to buy a car is like 942. I think it was to buy a holiday is 1,100 and the house is up into the 1,600s. So you kind of then look at, well, of all of the, how do you measure a funnel? Because somebody's dotted all over the place. But actually, if you kind of take a step back, there'll be some key parts of a journey that you want to engage with, that you want to benchmark or measure your strategy or your tactic against. I think that's what every good marketing strategy should be built on, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not one funnel for everything.
No, absolutely not.
And just 3 stages.
And not just linear as well, like you said. I think it was Google who coined the term, the messy middle.
Yes.
Within the funnel, and how people can bounce around different stages. And again, so what we do, in fact, and this is a good time to point the learners to this, in the platform itself, if you just scroll down to the additional resources, you'll see a bunch of links to different websites, articles, etc. And one that I'll include in there is one to a Google case study, which looks at an individual making a purchase of a vehicle, like you've just referred to there, and it maps out the different touch points, as they refer to it as. But essentially what that means is it maps out what they've been doing in terms of their online behavior, the various touch points that take place offline as well, because it's also worthwhile considering that as well, isn't it? Before they actually make that purchase itself.
1,000,000%. I think that's when you're trying to then stitch those journeys together of like, you've been when buying a car, you go through the whole process and there's hundreds and hundreds of the configurator tool, sending the configurator, actually I would like to inquire about this model, then you push it into the dealership. How do you connect that? How do you realize at what point, from Facebook ad to see the new Audi A1 to configuring it to saying, I would like this to inquire, how do you connect the dot so that when I get into the dealership and they say, oh, Mr. Blenkinsop, and I register in, then they know it's the Facebook ad. So connecting journeys from on and offline is, again, we're definitely moving there, I think, and it's a fundamental part of it all. Is marketing is so multi-channel. There's so many touch points, there's billboards, out of home, and I think everybody's striving to try and connect the dots to try and map the journey, because it's not that straightforward anymore.
No, 100%. So to continue about the concept of a funnel, one that we like to use and that can be seen on screen right now is awareness, consideration, conversion, and advocacy. So I feel like we've discussed attention or awareness even right at the top of the funnel, getting people to come through to our website. They might discover us through search, for instance, right? And then moving into consideration, people are engaged with content on our website. Conversion, we've just discussed quite heavily. But then advocacy. Yeah. So number one, what does that even mean? But number two, how does that actually manifest on a website?
I think advocacy is we spoke early on about the importance of a website and it just being a kind of a go-to channel, let's just say, as we have like so many digital natives now. My daughter will start on Google, she will start with a website. It's her first protocol, let's just say. So I think, thinking about how we then, once we've attracted a potential customer into a brand, like how do we then keep that constant engagement through their channel of choice, which would be the website and digital, I think is really, really important. I think there'd be two ways to look at it in the way that we've kind of spoke today around a B2B and then a retail experience, let's just say. So from a B2B world, or a service design, let's just say, if you are trying to engage with your Sky TV or your water company or your electricity board, if you have a problem, troubleshooting, solving problems, a lot of people want to avoid the telephone. A lot of people's first touch point is the last thing I want to do is want to ring somebody. First thing I'm going to do is just go on the internet and see if I can find the answer myself. I think as a generation, we have a lot of people that would rather do it themselves these days. I think a lot of organizations have realized that. So if you can put content online, there is an ability to allow customers to self-serve. And I think that can have a huge impact on an organization's kind of like running costs, the efficiency. If you have to have a customer service team that's constantly on the phone solving problems for audiences that are more than happy to solve problems themselves online, you can free up all of that resource to spend more time with vulnerable customers who need it, let's just say. So actually, by introducing digital as a channel of choice for post-sale aftercare is a great opportunity. What that will also do is the fact that you can service those people at 11 o'clock at night when a radiator's bust and they want to know how to fix it and how to bleed your radiator. If you can be there, then that's providing quite an impressive customer experience out of hours. So I think there's lots of opportunity to allow customers to self-serve with helpful content. I think even if you looked at going back to the idea of putting a new CRM tool in, right? Somebody gets this new CRM tool, we've attracted them, we've given them white paper in the sector, they're now a customer. How to use it, how to troubleshoot it. When you're installing a new CRM and you come up with a journey that you can't quite do, like why pick up the phone if you can self-serve that online? So servicing digital content after sale is huge. And I think we've worked with clients in the past that have done this fantastically well to help somebody use it. Let's just say you sell a nourishment drink for to help you in your weight training exercises, and you buy it from somewhere. Then when you start consuming it, the next thing you want to do is kind of start training. So what content can we, when you're drinking this, what should you eat? When you were doing your training program, how many calories should you intake and how should you run? So all of that aftercare is really important, but there's also an opportunity to upsell people essentially. If you've sold them the dumbbell, then tell them how to use it, give them an exercise sheet with a weight bench in it, and then you kind of building that lasting relationship, which I think is really, really important. So I think content post-purchase is super important, or post-conversion, in terms of retaining that customer and keeping them engaged. I think that the other opportunity, I think, in a post-conversion way, and that a website can help build advocacy maybe, and loyalty, referral schemes, like just, little digital tactics like that, where, if you have somebody that's been through that whole experience, thinks you're the best brand in the world and they've got the delivery on time, that's probably the unique opportunity to almost start harvesting those reviews that we spoke about, the importance at the top of the funnel. So actually, at what point do we have the email strategy to say, thanks very much for shopping, here's a helpful guide on how to use a new product, would you mind leaving us a review? And it starts fueling that ecosystem of attract new customers, retain new customers, refer new customers. So the whole thing needs to be connected, which is why I could say the funnel goes like that.
More of a cycle than a funnel.
Wow. Yeah. So I think there's kind of lots post-conversion that will help build loyalty and advocacy.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really interesting then, just on the topic of content and how different types of content can even be positioned differently depending on what you want to achieve, because you raised a really interesting point there about kind of educational content, right? Now, you could have that behind kind of a gated members-only portal where an existing customer can go on and, again, you keep serving them with something that's valuable. Or that very same content could actually be positioned, for instance, on a blog, where people will find that for the very first time through search. So it's really interesting to have that conversation about content as well, and how you can have different types of content on your website, but then position it in different ways as well, intended for users at different stages of that funnel.
Absolutely. How many times do you go on creating a whole kind of content strategy on customer acquisition and think, I wonder if my existing customers would really love this, and that's going to help build that. So, without a doubt, I think using content exactly the same way, if we create a piece of video content, because we know that our audience type like video content, that consume short form video, and they kind of hang out on Facebook. We'll talk about the importance of custom content for different segments, and that's. But once you've got that piece, then how do you put it on your own channel, put it on a YouTube channel, use it in a Facebook strategy, but then put it on site for even top of the funnel search on how do you do a fly press without a weight bench and sell them the weight bench, but I think that using the content for discovery as well as kind of retention is a really intelligent way to look at it. Creating content is time consuming, so getting the most of it is super important.
I feel like we've done I'm trying to take some credit here from you, Andy. I feel like we've done a really great job in answering that original question, why is a website important? Yeah. But what would you say are the key takeaways from all of this then?
Okay, yeah, so we have covered off a lot. I think the first thing I'd say is, design your website to build and showcase your brand in the best possible way, right? And we think about that attraction at the top of the funnel, but I think always design with conversion in mind, be it a primary or a secondary goal. I always consider what is the next step, what is the next point of conversion that we need to be driving a customer towards. Having the right content on your website is key. It must align and be optimized to the needs of your customers at every stage of the funnel. And I think you've just made a great point there of, yes, the content has to say something, but what's the best format for that content? Because, can we think a bit outside of the box and repurpose that content somewhere else in our marketing strategy to extract value from it? Optimize your website well for organic and paid search, and it'll more than likely be the first touch point your audience has with you as a business. So make sure you're using every technique that you can to build trust on that first touch point. So we spoke about the importance of testimonials and reviews, but also I think it's relevance, making sure that you've kind of considered what somebody will search for, what they expect to see, and then think about building trust straight away, aligning USPs, aligning value proposition. And then finally, I think measuring the performance of your website in relation to the bespoke marketing funnel. We will always measure the performance of a website on where somebody came into the website, where they went next, where they bounced, where they exited. But I think what's really important is understanding how it performs in the entire funnel, from when somebody first comes on, what we expect them to do, when they convert, do they come back? So I think building bespoke funnels around your website is super important at kind of journey level.
So Andy, I'm aware that we came into the session asking, is a website important? And I feel like you and I could have had that conversation about 5 seconds, the answer being yes. But I feel like the conversation that we have had within this session has been much more insightful, and it's opened up the opportunity to explore the likes of, if I was to summarize this into key areas to look at further, it would be design, bearing in mind the user's journey and what does that journey look like, making sure that it all flows well and we're giving people what they want at the right times. But then thinking about what they want, that also ties into the content we keep discussing as well. So what types of content, like who are we trying to create content for, I think is something which is huge as well. Think about your audience.
The kind of content that they like to consume.
Precisely. And then also moving into, well, how do people discover that content on your website? Bearing in mind what this course is all about, right? The importance of a website. So for me, that would be through search engines. People are looking for relevant information, relevant content. What we're going to do from a search engine perspective to serve them with the most relevant results. And then finally, because I think this is massively important across digital marketing, is how do we measure our performance to see if what we're doing is actually effective?
Yeah, and driving value. I think it's, yes, everyone needs one. It's understanding where the website sits for you as an organization. What do we expect it to be driving, and then measuring, is it actually giving us the right results? Because, you know, I think, as we said there, a website can play a part at all stages in the journey, but ultimately there'll be some core KPIs that you measure from it. Does it drive leads? Does it convert? Does it drive revenue? Does it rank? So I think, you know, when you get that measurement piece right, you'll then start to understand the importance, and actually that it is a fundamental part of any organization. Whether you are a retailer or a B2B or you work in manufacturing, a website is a core part of any business strategy, not just marketing.
Yeah, and it's kind of your reason why, you know, why you going about having a website, creating a website, maintaining that as well. So I think it's a really interesting conversation to be had around that as well, isn't there?
There is indeed.
Right. Well, thank you very much for your time, Andy, and thank you to you guys as well for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next.
Thank you, guys.